Hello, this is Gregory Jackson for GrebJack.com. Welcome back to my tutorial series on setting up the framework for an adventure RPG in RPG Maker MZ. In this lesson, we're going to learn to create custom tiles and tile sets. At the end of the last lesson, your homework assignment was to download and install GIMP. If you have not done so, then stop this video and do that assignment, unless you have another program you would prefer to use and are familiar enough with it that you can duplicate what I'll be demonstrating in GIMP. If you don't have another program and just feel like you shouldn't have to bother downloading any third-party program, then leave the classroom now and don't bother coming back. Just kidding. Seriously though, not everything can be visually achieved with RPG Maker MZ by itself. Don't get me wrong, there is a lot you can do with it, but you may find yourself struggling a bit to make things match your vision. I really want you to be able to learn how to do this, at least on a basic level, and we'll be working with MZ's artwork to do so. This requires an art program that allows you to work with layers and transparency. GIMP is free and very powerful, which is why I use and recommend it. This series is meant to be viewed in order and its entirety, as each lesson builds upon what has come before, so if you've not already done so, please do so. If you have been following along, and if you have GIMP installed, open it and the MZ project and we'll dive in. To those new to GIMP, don't worry, I'm going to demonstrate how to do everything for the first time, just like I do with MZ. We need to set up a couple of things. In MZ, click Game and then Open Folder to bring up the folder where your MZ project was created. Go into the IMG folder, go into the Tilesets folder, and create a new folder called Work. This is where we're going to be saving all the source files we'll be working with to produce custom tiles. We're going to be creating a lot of templates that we can recycle into variants. In Legend of Zelda, we saw green rock, brown rock, and gray rock in the overworld. In this very lesson, we are going to create the equivalent of some of the gray rock tiles using elements from RPG Maker MZ. Now that we have our work folder, let's create our first resource file. Switch over to GIMP. Do not be concerned if some of what you see on your screen and what you see here is different throughout this video. I use GIMP for a lot of different things, some of which I'm working on at the same time as this tutorial, but I promise to maintain focus on what is relevant to the lesson. Click File and then Open to bring up the Open Image window. Browse to the Tilesets folder for our project. Select the outside_B PNG file and click Open. We now see the tileset loaded into GIMP. Switch back over to MZ. Right-click on Overworld in the map list and click Edit. In the Map Properties window, under General Settings, change Tileset to Outside and click OK. Under the Tile palette, click on Tab B. We need to understand how the tileset is loaded into the palette. The tiles on the left side of the PNG file are loaded into the top half of MZ's tile palette, while the tiles on the right side of it are loaded into the bottom half. Keeping this in mind will help us make sure that where we put the tiles in the tile sets we build will show up where we want them to in the tile palette. Now in GIMP, click Image and then click Configure Grid. In the Configure Grid window, under Spacing, make both horizontal and vertical 48 pixels and click OK. We just made sure that GIMP knows that the tile set is divided into 48 by 48 pixel sections. So when we turn Show Grid and Snap to Grid on, we will have distinct edges to work with. Some of our work files will be configured to a grid spacing of 24 by 24 pixels for tighter control over where small elements may be placed within a tile while still conforming to the tile dimensions, and we'll be covering that in this lesson as well. Now before we do anything else, let's click File and Save As. Browse to the work folder we created in the project's tileset folder. Note that the file name is showing outside_b.xcf. XCF is GIMP's primary file format. Settings like grid configuration and individual layers are stored along with the actual image data. All of our work files will be saved as XCFs. Go ahead and click Save. Now click View and then Show Grid. Then click View and then Snap to Grid. The first tile from MZ we'll be working with is going to be this one, designated as Boulder A in MZ. We are going to make our first tile group with it, which will be modeled after the classic Legend of Zelda's rock face tiles. Click File and then New. Under Image Size, make width and height 144. Click on Advanced Options. Set Fill Width to Transparency and click OK. Fill with transparency is very important. Without it, tiles may not work right if they are meant to have empty spaces in them. At the top, we see that there are now 2 image tabs. We can expect to be working with a lot of images at once, so we want to pay attention to which tab they are under. Now, like before, we need to configure the grid for our new image. This time, we're setting the spacing to 24 by 24 pixels. As mentioned, the reason for this is that we need tighter snapping control to make sure that all the tiles in the group align correctly. Let's save this in our work folder as 3x3 template.xcf. We'll be using this template a lot. Remember to turn on Show Grid and Snap to Grid. Click the tab for outside_b.xcf. With the Rectangle Select tool, select the Boulder A tile by pressing and holding the left mouse button near its top left corner and dragging down to its bottom right corner. Grid snapping makes this a lot easier. Let's do a Control-C to copy the tile, and then do a Shift-Control-V as in Victor to paste it as a new image. We will now do a Shift-Control-J as in Jacob to fit the image to the entire window. We need to remove the shadows because leaving them in will cause dark spots in our tile group that will stand out way too much in the game. Using the Fuzzy Select tool with threshold set to 10, click the darkest shadow in the bottom left. We see that most of the shadow region was selected. While holding Shift, click the remaining shadow area to add it to the selection and hit the Delete key. With the shadow gone, do a Shift-Control-A as in Apple to make sure nothing is selected, and then save the image in the work folder as grayrock.xcf. Yeah, I know. That was an awful lot of stuff just to grab a single tile. But we now have it saved as one of our work files, so we won't have to do that again for this tile group. Take a look at this image. In fact, do a screenshot of it if you want to keep it as a cheat sheet. These are the positions we are going to paste gray rock into the 3x3 template. The order is important to ensure that the tiles seamlessly align with each other. Make sure the Gray Rock XCF tab is selected and do a Control-C to copy it. Select the 3x3 template tab. Do a Control-V as in Victor to paste the copy of Gray Rock into the image. Then click where the grid lines cross in the middle of it and drag it to where position 1 was indicated. Now let's do a Control-V as in Victor again. The copy of Gray Rock has been pasted directly on top of the one we had dragged to position 1, so it looks like nothing happened. If we go ahead and drag it to position 2, we see that we have 2 copies of Gray Rock in the template. Now we want to repeat the process for positions 3 through 21. When we are done, this is what we should have. Again, grid snapping makes it easy to keep things lined up. Do a Control-H as in Henry to anchor that last floating selection, and then save this image in the work folder as 3x3 grayrock.xcf. That's not all we're going to do with the Gray Rock tile groups, but it is enough to put into the tile set and start editing with it. After all, this is an RPG Maker MZ tutorial, and GIMP is just one of the tools we are using. So now, we'll create a new image with both width and height set to 768 pixels, and fill width set to transparency. Going forward, unless I tell you otherwise, whenever I say to create a new image, set fill width to transparency. Configure the grid so that spacing is set to 48 by 48 pixels. Save this in the work folder as tileset-template.xcf. Turn on the grid and grid snapping. Grab a copy of 3x3 Gray Rock, paste it into the tileset template, and drag it here and do a Control-H to anchor it. If this tile set is going to be used under tab B in the tile palette, the top left tile should remain empty. MZ reserves this tile to serve as an eraser, and that functionality cannot be changed under tab B. No such restriction applies for tile sets intended to be used under tabs C through E. Click File and then Save As. Save this file in the work folder as advrpg1b.xcf. Now click File and then Export As. Browse to the project's tileset folder. Click Select File Type by extension. Scroll down the list and find PNG image and select it. Set the name to advrpg1b and click Export. When the Export Image as PNG dialog pops up, make sure that compression level is set to 0. Click Save Defaults if you don't want to do this every time, and then click Export. Now that we've got the new tile set where it needs to be, switch over to MZ. Go into the database and click the Tilesets button on the left. In the Tilesets list, click Outside. Under Images, click the button under D to bring up the Select an Image window. Select advrpg1b and click OK. Under the Tile Viewer, click the D tab to view our newly added tile set. Now we need to set the passage for the new tiles. Right now, we see that everything has a circle symbol. This means that all of the tiles are walkable, and we do not want that. Click on each of the gray rock tiles to change their circles to X's to show that the tiles will now block the player movement. The gray rock tiles will now work correctly, so we can go ahead and click OK. Now let's use the new tiles. We want to edit map 001, change its tile set to outside, and click OK. All of the overworld tiles have been replaced, so we need to do just a little readjusting. Using the outer tiles of the 3x3 gray rock group, make the map look something like this. Now flood fill the corner areas with the center tile. And just like that, we've got a very Zelda-like screen with all the directions open, the perfect starting point for an adventure. If you test the game now, you will see that NavSys is still working as intended as far as where it sends you when you reach the screen edge. But if you try to go back to map 001 from any other map, and you are not lined up with the walkable area for map 001, you'll be stuck in the rock area. Now it's time for your homework assignment. First, using the outside tile set and our new gray rock tile group, fix the borders of the other 4 maps so they line up with map 001, or remove the trigger regions from the borders where the gray rock areas would be in map 001. The latter is acceptable, but you'll get more practice working with the new tiles if you do the former. Next, in GIMP, you need to create 4 new templates with a grid spacing of 24. We'll be needing a 1x1 template, a 2x2 template, a 3x1 template, and a 1x3 template. At the start of the next lesson, I will assume that you have these. I will tell you now that there is a very easy way to make these. To do it, you just need the 3x3 template and what you've learned so far. Don't worry, I'll be telling you what it is. In this lesson, we learn how to create templates and a new tile group, how to add a tile group to a tile set, how to set tiles to block players, and how to build a basic screen with new tiles. Next lesson, we will create some more gray rock tile groups, and we will look at ways of arranging the groups in the tile set. We covered a lot of ground in this lesson, and I didn't want to throw everything at you all at once. For GrebJack.com, this is Gregory Jackson. Thanks for watching.